All right, guys, so let's discuss the 7 lies that keep you working far too long. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but many of us believe these lies. So let's debunk all of them today. I know this one's not going to be popular with a lot of folks out there, but that's okay. We got to break through and get you guys the truth on this matter because I want you guys to be able to retire, to have that financial freedom, to be able to do exactly what you want in life. But you can't do that, or it's much harder to do that if you believe these lies. And first up, you need $1 to $3 million to retire comfortably. That's kind of the going knowledge right now, is that you need that amount of money in order to retire comfortably. But yet I know folks that are retired on $300,000. Some folks even less than that, and they're very comfortable and they live an incredible lifestyle. If you're viewing retirement through that traditional lens, then that might very well be true. If you're living above your means already, then that might very well be true. But if you don't have that, let's say you got, $50,000 and you're 65, it doesn't mean that you can't be retired in 2 or 3 years either with a lot less than $1 million like everybody out there tells you you have to have. It is simply not true. This is a very easy math equation. You just have to think outside the box, from everything from having a side hustle that turns into a business, to real estate investing, to learning how to live at a much lower cost, which can be done even right here in the US. Or of course, moving overseas and arbitraging your currency, whether you own the euro or you get paid in US dollar, whatever the case is, there's a way to do that too. But even if you don't want to do that, there's a way to do it right here, right where you live right now. Now, it may require you moving. It may require drastic changes in your life. I didn't say it was going to be easy. I didn't say it was going to be one of these things where you're just like, oh, okay, hey, that's great, Luke. Tomorrow we'll just do it, right? Yeah, nothing will change, right? I can continue to my same spending habits, my same everything, and nothing changes. That right there is not true. Somebody may very well be selling that, but I'm not trying to sell you that here. We have the Blacklist community right here where we give you step-by-step how to retire on as little as $300,000 in as quickly as 1 year. And it proves that this absolutely can be done because we have experts in there that have already done it right here in this country, not living overseas, although we do have some members that have done that. And that's exactly what they're doing and executing on. And they're there to answer your questions, but doing it right here in the US on a very, very, very modest nest egg. So to say you need $1 to $3 million in order to retire comfortably is simply false, and is a lie that the vast majority of people believe, unfortunately. Next up, work is good for you. Now, I would agree that you need to keep your mind active, and I would agree that the right kind of work is absolutely good for you. But most people do not have the quote unquote good kind of work. If you did, you would love your job. You'd never want to retire, and you probably wouldn't even be watching a video like this, right? Because you would just keep right on doing what you enjoy. But the vast majority of folks are not working that type of job that provides very low stress, very high enjoyment, very, very high quality of life, both in and out of the office or in and out of the field or wherever the heck you manage to work. I'm not saying those jobs don't exist, but the vast majority of folks fall for the trap of, well, work's good for me. Well, it is better than sitting around at home and just watching TV all day long like the vast majority of folks do in retirement. I would agree, or scrolling social media or whatever the heck people do to kill their time whenever they get older like that. That does not mean that you should stay in a crappy job just simply because you feel work is quote unquote good for you. Unfortunately, that's a lie that we tell ourselves to justify staying in our situation, not ever making changes, all those other things like that just kind of create a bad scenario to where you're poor health, poor mental health, you're tired, you're exhausted, and more importantly, you see no end in sight, and you're definitely not deriving a lot of satisfaction out of your work, out of what you're doing. Although this one can be true for some folks, for the vast majority of folks out there, it is absolutely a lie. Number 3, you need to support adult kids. Now, this one I know is going to upset a lot of people, but let me caveat this. I'm not saying if you have an adult child that is grown, is in an abusive relationship or something like that, and obviously needs to reset and restart and get out of that. That makes perfect sense to me. I am not talking about that. I'm talking about little Johnny living in mommy and daddy's basement, not even working a job, not working on the next career path, has no plan, or maybe they have a plan, but they haven't executed on it after a couple of years. That's kind of what I'm talking about there. I talk to far too many folks who are still supporting adult children in some way, shape, or form, because we'll go through their budget. We'll look at it and go, hey, where's that $1,000 going every month? Oh, well, I'm still paying for the cell phone and, a few other things of that nature. And it's just kind of like, wait a second, they're like 35. Like, why the heck are you paying a 35-year-old cell phone bill? Like, it makes no sense at all to me whatsoever. If you're wanting to get serious about retiring and you're wondering why you can't seem to be able to get there, The fact that you support your adult children is one of the reasons why you get there. And that's getting worse. Every single year, that stat goes up and up and up. I'm not talking about temporary situations, true temporary situations, not ones where you say it's temporary and then it's a decade later and they're still in the same spot. I'm talking about those truly unique where you actually are giving them that help up to that next level, helping them move on to something better, helping them move on to something different, make that change that they need to make. Not discussing that at all. Unfortunately, too many people justify it as that, but anybody outside of that can clearly see that, nah, they're just kind of mooching off of you. You're supporting your adult children, you're supporting those bad habits. And in a lot of ways, unfortunately, you're actually hindering them from moving on because they know, hey, well, mom's going to make me dinner and I'm going to be able to hang out here and I'll work on that dream job tomorrow or whatever the case is. Sadly, you are trading in your retirement and your financial future and probably theirs too for not making the hard decision right now. Number 4, you need a big house in retirement. All right, this is one of those typical keeping up with the Joneses or Hallmark moments that we kind of have here in the US. I don't know how you guys work overseas, but right here, I couldn't tell you how many folks I talked to who were looking to retire and they either keep working because they need to have this big house. And I ask why, and they're like, oh, well, when the grandkids come and my kids come and, they have this Hallmark moment of this house full of 25 people that are all coming, for the holidays or whatever the case is. And then you actually get down to, well, how often does it happen? Does it happen every other year? Does it happen, here or there? Like, are they coming every month? I mean, how exactly does this work out? And typically it doesn't happen at all, or it happens very, very rarely. To where, in terms of when you sit down and you do the actual math, it would make far more sense for you to downsize significantly, live with what you need, and then rent that big house for that week over Christmas or whatever the case is, whenever the whole family is actually there. Hey, then you could rent a dream house some other place, right? Far bigger than what you have right now. And then at that stage, it's still cheaper than maintaining and keeping that big house year round. But hey, that goes right against keeping up with the Joneses. You've got to do something different. Of course, there may very well be some ego involved in that as well, or that pride in having the big home and all that sort of stuff. But if you're doing that, instead of downsizing and being able to walk away from your job tomorrow and retire and move on to that next phase in life, it's something you definitely want to reconsider. And it's definitely a lie that you're believing, because I'm sorry, those few days a year where everybody's in the house, and I hate to tell you, as the grandkids get older, they're not going to like you anyways, or definitely not going to be interested in going to grandma and grandpa's house, regardless of how awesome we think that we are in the future. It's just the reality of life, and that's just part of the cycle. You're hanging on to something that is simply a lie to the end that is keeping you at your job far longer than you needed to be. Number 5, you have time to plan. This is another one I run across routinely with folks who are in their 40s, 50s, sometimes even 60s. Usually by 60, they're kind of getting it. But I routinely run across folks my age, right around my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, who think, oh, I got plenty of time to worry about retirement. No, you really don't. And more importantly, the time it takes to execute on a plan takes decades. And the earlier you do it, the more you'll have at the end of this thing and the easier the journey will be. But yet people want to push it off until the last minute and they think that they have more time to plan this sucker, and you really don't. If you're coming to me at 55, 60 years old and going, hey, Luke, I got nothing and I want to retire and I got all these bills and I got all this debt and I got a big house and I got 3 cars and all this other stuff like that, I've got to flip your whole life upside down, dump it all out, destroy it all. And then maybe we can build up something to kind of make a quick rush there. And you really need a few things to break your way. The more extreme I have to get in order to create a path in order for you to be able to retire and stop working. Earlier you create that plan and start executing, the far easier it is and the far better plan we can execute for you. And more importantly, the far better that retirement will be. But unfortunately, too many folks think that they have too much time, and before you know it, you're 65 and you got no plan. And more importantly, you don't have enough assets to actually be able to retire. And now we're in a world of hurt. And going right along with that is number 6, you will catch up. Just like number 5, thinking you have time for a plan, you also think you're going to catch up as well. This is what has us routinely, as a society, buying high and selling low, because all of a sudden we're behind. Oh crap, I need to catch up for retirement. Well, I can't afford to just get the 10% return or so that the stock market's going to give me over time. I can't wait on my real estate properties to pay off in 30 years. I need it now. So what do? You start getting more risky. What happens? Well, stocks are hot right now. 2021 time frame, right? I need to jump in. I need to be in the stock market. Oh my gosh, this stock's gone to the moon. I need to make sure I get onto it before it goes to Mars. And all these other things that, 2007 housing. Oh man, I need to get into real estate. I need to start buying houses because this is people are making $100,000 a year doing nothing except for just buying a home and just holding it. That's exactly what happens when you think you're going to quote unquote catch up. Catching up means additional risk, which usually means sometimes a big reward, but in a lot of ways, you just lowered your percentage significantly to getting there. So it's the same kind of mentality as the prior point. The earlier you do it, the more you don't have to quote unquote catch up. As a matter of fact, as it moves along, you may be able to get more and more conservative and take more and more on the risk out of those investments to make it even more safe and more secure for you to get there. And the final lie you believe is your retirement must look like everyone else's. Look, everybody wants to retire, have 2 cars, 2 dogs, I don't know, picket fence, a big house, take these vacations, just do all this stuff like everybody else instead of creating their own retirement, creating their own niche in retirement, right? We have some of our experts, they travel around and they live in RV parks. That's the retirement that they gave for themselves. We have other folks that have gone overseas. We have other folks that have started a business or live on a boat. I've heard all kinds of things, but to think your retirement needs to look like everybody else's and you need to have the same little retirement plans and the same makeup of what you own and that you do the same things as everybody else and everything else of that nature is simply not true. And it's a lie that we tell ourselves, mostly because we don't want to do the planning and the hard work to begin with. And then even if we think we may have something better or something cooler or something that really interests me a whole lot, that would really fulfill me in retirement, we get scared because of that judgment piece. We get scared. Oh, what would my friends think? What would my family think? Maybe my family thinks I'm crazy. I hear that all the time when we're talking about just starting businesses. How many folks are willing to give up a decent job to start a business that could make them millions upon millions in the future? A lot of times they have a great idea. They have a great business idea. They have the right mind, the right mindset, the right everything for it, but they never do it because they fear that judgment from family, friends, whatever the case is. Either way, if you think your retirement needs to be like everybody else's, you are simply believing a lie that is not true. Create your own. It can be anything you want. There are no limits. There are no rules. There are no this, that, and the other that you read in all the silly books and that's put out there in the magazines and the media and on social media and everything else of that nature. Get rid of all that trash in your head. Create your own path and then execute to it. And that's exactly what we do in the blacklist. It's the pinned comment down there. We take you everything step by step, exactly how to do that from start to finish. You don't have to do anything, and we're there to help you along the way. Check that out. It's the pinned comment. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.